Hey, what's up, guys? It is Montana with Sawyer's Garage, back at you with another Toyota build video. I believe this one is number 3. Most of my footage I recorded from this past weekend was time-lapse footage, just because I wasn't really doing anything. I'm not really making a how-to, just because it would take too long to do kind of a how-to, as well as on this particular engine. This is the first time I've ever tore one apart, so if I make a how-to on something, I like it to be on something that I've got a little more experience with that particular engine or that particular thing that I'm working on. This is my first Toyota engine that I've had apart to this degree. So at that rate, I was more or less just doing it, not necessarily trying to do a how-to. So that's why I went ahead and just did a lot of time lapse, because there really wasn't anything too crazy going on this day. Like I said, it was basically just time lapse footage, just in putting this engine together. But during the week, we had painted the engine block black, which, as you can see here in the video. We also painted the engine oil pan. We painted that a nice blue color that kind of matches the truck. And then we did the same with the valve cover. We painted that blue as well. We also painted the front cover black just to kind of blend in, and it actually looks pretty good in my opinion. It turned out pretty well. We got, I think, 6 coats of engine enamel. Our buddy Joe came over just to kind of see what was going on. We were working on this here, and so that's kind of this footage right here is the beginning of our day. Here at some point it will stop, and that's when we left to go. I can't remember what we did, but we left to go somewhere. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. Obviously, you got the cylinder head on. I just actually realized that I didn't completely space timing the crankshaft to the camshaft. I don't know how I managed that, so I actually had to pull that front cover back off. So that was not wise on my part, but that's how it goes sometimes. Alright, so this is actually a little later on in the day. That's when we got back, so we went ahead and officially bolted on the valve cover, and just kind of making sure we were working on putting the motor mounts back on the block. Josh here is mounting the alternator, and then I had went and kind of fabricated a spacer, because previously the smog pump bracket spaced out the engine mount on the block, and so basically there was a gap where that would have been. And what I did is I grabbed the smog pump bracket, and I took my grinder and I grinded just the bracket piece off where the hole would go through, basically, and kind of like just made a thick washer using the actual part that would have went there. Had we reinstalled the smog pump, obviously completely removing all the emissions, there was no need, so I didn't bother. But this is kind of us getting late in the night at this point, so we're kind of losing our, I don't want to say we're losing motivation, but we're definitely slowing down our work progress. In our heads this morning, we thought, oh, we could probably get this assembled and maybe even get it sitting in the truck. Clearly, we did not get anywhere near that far. But again, working on cars, and if there's anything I've learned, especially by filming some of my things that I've been working on these last couple months, is that especially when there's a camera involved, things seem to take forever. There's always this misconception in your head that, dude, all I gotta do is put an oil pan on, put a cylinder head on, front cover, valve cover, bolt the carb on, dude. It shouldn't take very long. Well, sometimes it does. So that's basically where we end up here, is in this state. Carbs bolted on, everything's looking pretty good, but at this point we basically call it good for the night, and we pick up the next day. But I was going to go ahead and show you guys the engine here. Alright, so she's looking pretty good. Here's what we've done to her. Is as you can tell, we painted the stock valve cover. We painted the same similar color blue that the truck is painted. We also went ahead and painted the oil pan that same color blue. We engine enameled black the block, as well as the front cover there. Did a pretty good scrub down of all the other components, just try to get all the grease and grime off of everything. We've got our Weber carb installed here. Obviously, there's a couple more things I still gotta, you know, vacuum lines and stuff I still gotta hook up, electric choke stuff when it's in the vehicle. But that right there is what the engine's looking like. All right, so this right here kind of starts my second day of work here. My first job was to go ahead and get the transmission in the truck, and while I had the transmission out, I did go ahead and put in a new throwout bearing on that, I guess, throwout lever, whatever they call them. Basically, since it came with the clutch kit, might as well, because we did order a brand new clutch kit to go in this thing. And so this is me having fun getting that transmission held up in there. I tried several different ways, and ultimately what I settled with was actually lifting it up from the nose and putting it in the engine bay first, and then kind of sliding it down. And so I got that installed. At this point, it's already been installed. And what I'm doing right now, you can't see it because Josh finally was able to show up and help. I was filling up the transmission with some fresh gear oil. So basically what we're doing now is just prepping, making sure the engine bay is ready to go. I can't remember where I'm at right now, but I believe Josh was pulling the ground wires out of the truck because we actually crimped our own brand new battery cables with a hydraulic crimper I got off of eBay or Amazon. I think Amazon. So actually I was really impressed with that thing. But if you wonder where we're at, I think that's what we're doing, is because we decided we were going to go ahead and make new battery cables because the old ones were looking kind of crappy, and I think we had a poor connection in the positive cable going down to the starter. So we did put brand new ones in there, which should help us out quite a bit. We actually went with 2 gauge, which is way thicker than the factory. And it's actually 2 gauge. It's welding lead wire, so it has an inner sheathing, so it should be pretty durable. And you can't really see it. I didn't realize our camera wasn't panned over as far, but what I'm actually doing right now is I'm trying to press out that that clutch bearing that sits in the crankshaft. I don't think that's the throwout bearing, but I could have those backwards. I can't remember what the heck they call that, pilot bearing maybe. But basically, we tried using grease behind it to see if we could press it out with some grease and kind of pressing the grease in. But what we found is that the grease was just pushing back through the bearing, through the race, through the ball bearing itself. And so we ended up taking blue paper towel, and I found a socket that was just the right size to fit in between the hole of the bearing. And I basically just kept breaking off little pieces of paper towel, shoving them back there, and then tapping it in with that socket. And it did eventually push that bearing right out. I was able to tap a new one in, no problem. Put a new rear main seal in it while we had everything out. At this point, obviously, you can see we've dropped the engine in the engine bay. I don't know what we did wrong, so to speak. Obviously, we ultimately ended up getting it, but we had a heck of a time actually getting it to sit on the motor mounts and getting the motor mounts to line up. It took quite a bit of prying with the pry bar just to get the right angle at it. And we tried it, several different ways. And at this point, it was really kind of frustrating. And we spent way longer than we needed to get that one simple thing done. It's the little things. Actually, getting it to line up with the transmission really wasn't a big deal. But getting those motor mounts took, I don't know, probably like 45 minutes or so. And so it did take a while, but we did eventually get it. We were able to finish bolting up the transmission and get all that in. At this point, obviously, lift and everything's out of the hoist is out of the way. At this point, I left Josh here alone, and you can see the first thing he does is have to whip out his phone for 15 minutes. Josh, if you're watching this, I saw you. This is your truck. This is why it's taking so long. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I actually had to go run to do a family dinner. So I left Josh alone. He got the starter installed. He got like the belt on, the fan on. He got the belt tightened up, things like that. Just kind of keeping things moving while I was gone for probably about 2 hours or so. And so yeah, he actually seemed to get all that done by himself, no problem. So good job, Josh. Making me proud out here. Only thing I don't like is how many times I see that phone in your hand. This is work. But, I didn't realize that's That sun was coming down right through that window. I think that's, I didn't put that curtain up. That curtain was there when I bought the place, and I have used it in the past blocking that, and now I totally understand why that curtain was there. But you see, I'm back now. I just had to run inside and change my shirt back, and there's my my wife and my little one. Kind of getting back on track. Ignore me using the phone. It's cool if I do it. But getting the carb kind of figured out. Had to mess with the linkage because it's obviously some new linkage for the new Weber carburetor. Another guest stopped in to hang out for a little bit. It's me and my son. And so, yeah, we're just kind of trying to do all the little finishing touches, making sure everything's where it needs to be. Fortunately, there's like only 3 or 4 wiring connectors on the whole engine, and 1 or 2 of those didn't actually need hooked back up due to the fact that we deleted the emissions. So figuring out where all the wiring went was really easy because there really wasn't any wiring to speak of, which is something to be said about 1980s technology, especially in the small pickup. They didn't really need anything too crazy. So that was a real help, just not having that many connectors to deal with. And I'm trying to think of where, okay, so we're getting ready. We did get a header, an exhaust header for it, and he needed a little clearance because we actually cut the old exhaust back out of the way a little bit. And so we discovered somewhere along the line that our new header really doesn't fit in there very well. It kind of wedges between the transmission and a torsion bar. And so we end up just, we were able to get it started and get the nuts started, and we just kind of went ahead and sent it on home and tightened her down, and it did seat. I guess we'll see what kind of long-term side effects we have of that. There really wasn't many options when it comes to this engine, but basically at this point we hit a stopping point. The engine didn't really want to start, and I think it's because I stabbed the distributor tooth off, I'm pretty sure. So I got to get back out there and retime it, the distributor timing, retime that and make sure that everything is where it needs to be. But anyways, that's basically where we leave off for the weekend, guys. So hang in there, guys. We will be back with some more footage shortly. We want to get this thing running just as bad as you want to see it running. So hang tight. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you guys want to stay updated on this build, as well as I have some more videos in the works that I am hoping to start filming here in the next couple weeks. So I got a lot of exciting stuff coming out, guys, so I would appreciate it if you just hang tight, hit the subscribe button, and enjoy the content. Thank you.